Hi, I'm Madonna from New Leaf Natural Therapies, and I had a client this morning which made me think something that I haven't done for you yet is a exercise that helps to balance the Moro Reflex. Now, the Moro Reflex is one of those things that when we're born, it's an accentuation of the Startle Reflex. So what we see with children is when they're babies is that their hands clench, their fists clench, they pull themselves in and then they let go and they scream blue murder and they scream. And this is, it's a protective thing. It's to keep them safe and alive. And when, of course, a baby is doing that, we can't not do something for them. So basically, this is a primitive reflex. It's set up in the womb and it's supposed to be active for about 6, 7, 8 months before we're actually giving birth to our children. And one of the things that is happening these days with all of the medical intervention, not that children don't need this, that's not what I'm saying, but it means that the Moro Reflex isn't being given the opportunity as we're crawling out the birth canal. That's supposed to ripen the Moro Reflex, and then after that it's the process of lying on the tummy and activating all of those chest muscles and tummy muscles that helps to neutralize the Moro Reflex. When people have an active, stuck Moro Reflex, it means that they can be going into fight and flight way too easily. Their digestive tracts can shut down. It can make it harder for them to learn. It can make them more aggressive and feel like they're being bullied all the time, or they can become the bully. It can activate a whole bunch of allergies. It can do all sorts of things that basically are exactly the same as the fight and flight. And when I've talked about LEAP before, LEAP is the brain integration process that we do at New Leaf Natural Therapies. LEAP sort of works from about 2 years old, because that's around the time when your logical and gestalt hemispheres of the brain are really up and running, whereas the primitive reflex work happens before that. So what I'm going to do is show you the Moro Reflex and the exercise to do. We recommend actually being balanced to the Moro Reflex, because it can make your symptoms worse if you're not balanced to it. At the very least, getting some rescue remedy or flower essence or something like that, so that if it's accentuating your symptoms, making your stress worse, making your sleep worse, making your moods worse, it can be a sign that on the bell curve of the Moro Reflex, you hadn't actually reached the top before it was hidden away. And so what it means is that, like, if you're sort of on your way up to being born and then you say had an intervention with your birth, your Moro Reflex might have never reached the peak, which means that you've actually got a bit of worsening of your symptoms to happen before you start coming down the other side. So when we recommend that the Moro Reflex exercise is being done, we're sort of talking once or twice, morning and night. It can be done by adults, it can be done by kids. It's the sort of thing that just slowly but surely helps to connect the two sides of the brain. And the reason that happens is because this exercise, when you see it, your brain hasn't done it since you were in the womb, or when you were a baby. So therefore the brain is trying to find a corresponding pattern. It's going, okay, well, where is that pattern? What is this movement? What is it I'm trying to do here? So that pattern is stored in the rear of the brain, which means that the conscious act of doing the exercise happens here, because this part of the brain is where all your arms and legs and tummy muscles and everything are. This part of the brain is where the Moro Reflex lives, which means you're actually connecting, you're creating little rivulets of energy between the front and the back of the brain. The more you do it, the more integrated your brain will become. Okay, so this is the Moro Reflex exercise. So you lie on your back, your right leg's on top, your right arm's on top, your head's up, and very, very slowly you open out the arms and the legs. It's best if your eyes are shut, and it should take you about 20 to 30 seconds to come into your outright position, and you should sort of basically imagine being in a big uterus, because that's sort of what's happening. It's very attractive. So then you hold that for a couple of seconds, and then you come back in. And as you come back in, you lift your head up, and once again you want your right leg on top and your right arm on top. And it should take about 30 seconds to come back in to that section. And then you just hold it for a couple of seconds. So that's basically the exercise. It's called a Moro Reflex. It's a primitive reflex that should be gone by the time we're about 4 months old. But because of life, stress, everything that happens in our lives, sometimes these things just don't disappear as neatly and tidily as they should. So I hope that's beneficial to someone in your world. Have a great day.